Hey guys, I'm going to show you how I prepare and tie some really quick trout nymphs. These are some of the most effective nymphs I tie, and I tie more of these than any other when I'm fishing for trout, mainly because they're easy to tie. They cover a range of situations and they catch fish everywhere. So I'm going to show you how I prepare it and tie it in the most efficient manner possible. Here is my preparation for my pheasant tail. I've got two size 14 hooks, nymph hooks, a length of fine gold wire ribbing, and 4 sections of pheasant tail. There's maybe 4 or 5 fibers per clump there. That is 2 sections per fly. When I tie my pheasant tails, the fly is 100% pheasant tail material. I don't use anything else with the exception of the ribbing. And I'll show you how that goes together in the tying steps. Very, very easy fly to tie. Extremely effective fly. Okay, hook and vise. I use a 6/0 black thread. This is uni thread. You don't have to use this type of thread. I recommend you use a fairly small thread that's appropriate for the size hook you're tying on. You don't want to use a big heavy thread. Okay, first thing I tie on after I've covered the hook shank with thread is my ribbing. I lay it along the length of the hook, wrap it back and forth just to make sure it's on there very securely. You don't want to overbuild your hook with thread, otherwise it's going to be too fat. Your fly will be. So the first thing you want to do is grab a section of your pheasant tail. Okay. To a certain degree, I like to even out the tips. I think I have too much here. Okay. I think I've got 4 fibers here. Yeah. Get those tail tips fairly even and pinch them by the tips. Okay. And you want to lay it along the top of the hook and throw a couple of loose wraps like so. Make sure it's rolled onto the top of the hook. Now you can look and see your tail length, and now you can pull it back or forth to get the tail where you want it, and actually I really like where that one is. Okay. Now what you want to do is advance your thread forward somewhere toward the front. It doesn't have to be in a specific spot at this point. You may be tempted to use hackle pliers for this, but frankly I find pheasant tail is just too delicate for somebody with heavy hands like me, so I like to be able to feel it in my fingers, and I rotate my vise. You can wrap it the old-fashioned way if you don't have a rotary vise, but I feel it's easier to keep a constant gentle pressure doing it this way. Get that thread back toward the front there. You can use your bobbin or your thread bobbin cradle to keep that out of the way. I do sometimes, but for the purpose of this video it's not necessary. Okay, tie that off. Okay, and get rid of those. So basically you have a very slim abdomen here. Now take your ribbing, counter wrap that material, wrap it in the reverse direction so that you are reinforcing the strength of your pheasant tail. Okay, tie it off. Keep some crummy scissors handy, because that's what you want to use to be cutting your ribbing. I'm sure all of you know that. You don't want to destroy your good... What am I doing without my glasses? Okay. Now, bring your thread to a point where you want your thorax to begin, which is halfway between the point of the hook and the eye. Okay. roughly. Take another section of pheasant tail. I like to put the butt ends forward, okay, and lay it in at about the halfway point of the length of these things. Throw a gentle wrap over the top, another one. Then you can kind of orient it right onto the top of the hook, okay? Now, bring your thread forward to the eye area to where you're going to build up the eye, okay? Now we do the same thing again with this front part, the butt ends of these pheasant tails. We're going to wrap them just like we did on the abdomen. Try to keep them all together if you can. Be very gentle because this material can be delicate. Okay. Throw a couple wraps to secure that. Get rid of your ends. What you should have left is a fairly nymphy shape. Slim abdomen, larger thorax, with these fibers streaming back that you're now going to pull forward for your wing case. Okay, that's it. Clip those. On these smaller flies, you don't have a lot of room to build up a head, so just throw a couple wraps and it's time to tie it off. You can do that however you want. I like my little whip finishing tool here. You can add a dot of glue to that head if you like. There it is. Simple, bare bones, super fast pheasant tail nymph. You get these prepared and get the all the materials ready, and you can have a dozen of these tied in an hour or more. Okay, this fly is going to be a Peking Caddis. My #1 fly for trout fishing streams for the last 20 years. This fly is extremely simple and extremely effective. So check it out. Okay. Hook and vise, black thread. Cover your hook with your thread. Take your ribbing, secure it along the length of your hook. Oops. All right. Small clump of muskrat or substitute. Doesn't have to be muskrat, though it is my favorite. It can be hare's ear, hare's mask. It can be synthetic dubbing, but it's got to be a dark color. I like gray or brown. I really like this nymph to have a nice contrasting look to it. Okay. Advance this dubbing to a point of about 1/8 of an inch behind the bead. It's okay if you get a little bit overflow, but you don't want to put too much of this on. A general rule of thumb is when you're tying nymphs is slimmer is better. Always slimmer is better. I think that's the #1 mistake that most people make, is they just put on too much material. Okay, now you take your ribbing and counter wrap. In other words, wrap it in the opposite direction of the dubbing. It will give your fly some strength. Tie it off at this point just behind the bead. Okay. Take your olive dubbing. Secure it to your thread and fill that gap that you've left between the muskrat and the bead. And you have this nice contrasting collar here. That kind of gives the appearance of a caddis emerging from its case. And when you fish these, they're going to get shaggy. That's a good thing. I don't know what it is about nymphs, but it just seems like when they get beat up, they become more effective. That is all there is to this fly. That's a Peking caddis. And this fly, over the last 2 decades, has been my #1 trout nymph. And it's not just trout either. You can catch steelhead. Anything that swims in waters where there's caddis will take this fly. And I've caught fish when there's not even caddis present. There's something about this contrasting color and the way the materials are on this fly. It's just my #1 fly, and if you keep it in your box, I bet you're going to like it too. I bet you're going to catch fish on that thing. Just fish it with confidence, get it down, get this thing tumbling along that substrate. You can use a split shot. You can pre-wrap this hook with lead. Keep it small though, because you want this to be a slim fly. You can tie it down to 16 or even 18 and tie it all the way up to 10 or even 6, you know, because if you've got October caddis present in your river, this'll pass for that as well. Anyway, thanks for watching.